and welcome to Day Talks. Thank you for joining us as we talk to our very special guest, Anthony Vatuna, International Spiritual Medium. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Today we're going to discuss the topic of anxiety, what it is, and when and how to let it go. From your perspective, can you tell us a little bit about what anxiety is on a spiritual level?
Anxiety arises from the brain. You are not a brain. You are a spirit that's inhabiting a body that has a mind as a tool. Anxiety is one of the more challenging emotions and feelings that the mind generates. The reason that the mind is generating these feelings is to distract you from the soul. It is using that to distract you from the peace and joyfulness that you are at your essence. The mind is in opposition to spirituality. So it's in opposition to peace, it's in opposition to joy. And it will take whatever hook it can and run with that, get hooked on that, and generate an emotion to distract us. The anxiety is related to the future, worrying about your well-being in the future, worrying about your direction in the future. That's where the anxiety is derived from in the mind. The mind is saying, okay, we're worried about our future. The present moment won't have anxiety in it. It's only when we start to worry about the future, what's the next moment? Will I be healthy? Will I have the money? Will I have this? Will I have that?
Mm-hmm. So you say you are not your brain. You just said that. Does that mean you're saying that the mind is a negative part of the human experience?
No, the mind is a wonderful, amazing part of the body. We should love the mind for what it's able to help us with in organization and in movement, in planning, holding and retaining information and being able to use that to create here. The mind is not the enemy, but it needs to be observed. Because of thousands of years of evolution, the mind has taken this extra step towards imposing itself upon us and distracting us from the soul, which is joyful. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen, it was not always the case. The soul was more present in previous civilizations. Mm-hmm. And the mind has slowly asserted itself and has developed what you could call dysfunction, when you're worried about something in a moment where you cannot do anything about it. It is not going to help you to be worried in that moment. Anxiety, though, is one of the more difficult things. It's a challenge to get out of that.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. Why do you think some people experience anxiety more than others? Do you think it's part of their lesson? Do you think it serves them? Is there any situation where those are two questions, but do you feel like it ever serves the person to have some anxiety? And why do you think some people experience it more than others?
Anxiety is a bridge too far. It's rarely, if ever, useful to fall into full-on anxiety. Mm-hmm. Worry is not going to bring it. Anxiety is not going to bring it the thing, that whatever it is that you feel you lack. It is just not going to bring that to you.
So how do you think that people can let it go?
This is why you start with understanding that the mind needs to be observed at all times. When it's unobserved, it starts to go down these dark pathways and alleyways. These are like cul-de-sacs. You don't know where to go when you get into anxiety. Mm-hmm. And if you don't observe what the mind is doing, you can get entrenched in that and you think that that's all there is. The only way is to step back and observe it from a spiritual perspective, a higher perspective. If you believe that you are a brain, you are going to be entrenched in that.
So let's go into a moment of anxiety. Somebody has a really anxious moment. We've all experienced it, where we're thinking of something, we're worried about something, and we are encompassed by it. In that moment, what can we do to alleviate some of that anxiety?
Because anxiety is coming from the brain, and it's coming from thoughts, thinking. And so it's a reduction of thinking that'll take you out of anxiety. And sometimes that will take something extreme. It will take focusing on deep breathing. It'll take huge distraction to stop the mind from thinking.
Are you talking about things such as medication, alcohol?
This is one of the things that happens because that's another tool that the mind uses to distract you from your soul, is people fall into alcoholism and depression and addiction, to hide from that. And that's just taking you further down a dead end road. That's not bringing you out of it. It's only through observing the mind that you can start to see, okay, this anxiety is not serving me. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it is a chemical imbalance. To have to take some kind of prescribed medication is not the end of the world. But some other method should be developed to reduce your thinking and take you out of the anxiety.
I see. Let's change course a little bit. I know that as a spiritual medium, you can connect with the departed, but can anxiety ever be someone trying to reach you from the other side, perhaps to give you a message from the other side? Or, as you said before, is anxiety always too far a step to where we should be as balanced spiritual beings?
It's always too far a step. It can be an indication, if you are an empathetic person and you're around people who have anxiety or connected to them by some kind of spiritual tie, you could feel the anxiety of other people that's not yours. But that's not coming from the departed. They have no interest in putting more anxiety upon us that we already have.
Thank you for that. And what is chronic anxiety from a spiritual perspective? Where do you think it comes from? Is there a lesson for us in that? And do you think that some people are meant to live and sit in the anxiety as part of their life lesson? Or should people always look for ways to release it or let it go?
It's never the lesson or there being a karmic reason why you should sit in anxiety. That is not what you're supposed to be doing. The lesson is always, how can I evolve out of this anxiety to bring myself to a place of peace? The soul is peace, it is joyfulness, and the mind is using the tool of anxiety to take you away from that.
And then one last question. How much of anxiety has to do with ourselves and how much versus our surroundings?
Well, it's always yourself. You can learn to protect yourself from your surroundings. You get to decide your reaction to your circumstances and your surroundings. There's a split second where you get to decide your reaction to a particular environment or circumstance.
And do you think anxiety is related to how we view ourselves or how we react to situations in our lives?
It's about your reaction to things that happen in life.
So you don't believe it's connected to how we view ourselves or how...
Well, you could always use the affirmation and tool that you can handle anything, that you are a strong person, that you're not going to succumb to anxiety, fear, and doubts, that you're a strong person, that you can handle that. You are what you say you are. If you continue to enforce that I am someone consumed with anxiety, then that's what you shall be.
I see. So there is a choice that we have in terms of whether we are anxious or not. We can choose to not have the anxiety.
You can choose to not have the anxiety. It is, however, one of the more challenging tools the mind uses to take you away from peace. So out of the things that can come up, the depression, anxiety, anything that's chronic, if you have chronic anxiety, this is ultimately a full consumption of oneself by the ego. Not in a positive way, that I'm the greatest, but in a way to take you away from spirituality. That's what the ego is doing.
Well, this has been very enlightening for me, certainly. And I want to thank you so much for enlightening the rest of us with your knowledge. And we do look forward to talking to you again soon. I know that a lot of people that I've spoken to have done readings with you and have said that you have actually helped them with their anxiety. So hopefully this talk has helped give us all a little bit of knowledge. If you'd like a reading with Anthony, please visit his website at readingsbyanthony.com. Blessings and light to you and to everybody who's listening. Until next time.